guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a tutorial, yes, on this eye look, but it's more so a how-to eye contour. I share with you guys how I contour my eye, how I work with this hooded eye with mature, crepey, wrinkly skin, because you guys know I'm 57, and just kind of how I add, definition and structure and depth and dimension to this so-called hooded eye. I also share with you guys some tips and tricks on how to do this winged liner, how to create the actual wing tip, and how to add depth and dimension also to the lash line. So if you guys are new here, welcome. Welcome to the video and welcome to my channel. Like I said earlier, I'm 57 with mature, crepey, wrinkly skin, so I do things a little bit differently here on my channel. I create maps and guidelines, and I build the foundation through creating the fake crease, and then I do a little framework on the eyes. I just cannot follow the typical cookie cutter, one size fits all YouTube tutorial where they go into the crease with a large fluffy brush and start out with that transition shade and just swashbuckle that color all over the place. That doesn't work for me or my eye shape, so I do things a little bit differently. So yeah, if you guys are new here, welcome again. And yeah, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell right next to it. That way YouTube will notify you each and every time I upload. And let's just get into this. Alright, so I primed my eyes. I used MAC's Paint Pot here in Soft Ochre, and I set this primer using this shade right here, which is a light, kind of a peachy shade. It works good for my skin tone and for the look that I'm doing today. And by the way, I do have my little Z palette here. These are literally like a lot of my go-to shades, and any one of these is really great to set that primer with. You kind of get a little, quote, halo shade or backdrop. I mean, it's not really a transition shade because I'm going to be putting in other lighter shades, but you can see that it gives me a nice little kind of backdrop for creating my fake crease and for getting the whole look started. I'm going to go ahead and spray this little beauty sponge right here, and I'm going to just do a tiny bit of baking. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. I just want to set my under eye area right here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and include the instruction on how I map out my fake crease. I've been kind of skipping this step on a lot of my tutorials lately because I used to include it all the time. But for the sake of this contouring video, I'm going to go ahead and include it. So I'm grabbing this shade right here from the Elsie Minimalist palette, and that is what I'm going to use to map out my fake crease. So the way I start this, and I've been doing this now for a while, that I can just go in and not do these little marks, but this little mark here is a good place to start. You want to look straight ahead, and right on the skin fold, right on that hood of the eye, you want to place a little dot right in the center. So kind of right above like your pupil, like just right there in the middle. And you want to be able to see this when your eyes are open and you're looking straight ahead. That's the whole idea of kind of mapping it out. So once you get it kind of mapped out, you know exactly where it's going to be, I like to kind of lean back a little bit just so I can get in the hollow, if you will, of the eye. And right in that socket bone, right in that socket, right in the soft part of the eye. So right underneath your actual socket bone or orbital bone, like right in this area. So I am directly above my natural crease, which is right here, and I'm putting the fake crease a few millimeters above it. So I'm going to kind of lean back here, get in that hollow of the eye, and just kind of carve out and map out the shape. Now the shape that I'm going to go with is the shape that I always go with, and that is I'm just kind of following my natural eye shape. Sometimes I think that winging it out is a lot easier because my eyes are not the same on both. So sometimes it's a little tricky trying to get them even because they are not the same. So I always kind of start out in the front center, and I get the front part of this kind of carved out, and then I will sometimes go back here and turn my brush around, because I usually use like an angled brush, and just kind of get the back end and I follow the curvature of my natural crease, and then I just sort of turn my head here and just kind of connect these two together. Because when you have mature, crepey, wrinkly skin, anytime that you draw a line or anything, it's going to skip, right? Because the skin is loose, right? So drawing a line curve like this and just a line isn't going to work if you have any kind of looseness in your skin, which just happens as we age, unfortunately. So that's kind of the way I do it. I just kind of get that guide going up here in the front. And I'm going to take it up a little bit higher in the front because I want to build a little bit more color and structure in the front. And then I like it kind of wispy and kind of airy as I get out towards the end. So I'm keeping the crease line a little bit closer in towards my natural crease when I get out here. I'm just taking it a little bit higher up in the front. And then I'm going to get my back area here, right in that socket bone right there, right in the hollow. And then I'm just going to kind of connect. Okay, so this is the foundation, if you will, of my eyeshadow look. This is what I spend the most amount of time on, and this is what I love doing more than any part of the eyeshadow look, is mapping out this shape and contouring this hooded eye, if you will. Because with hooded eyes that are slightly downturned and then you add, you know, mature, crepey, wrinkly skin in there, there's really honestly not much structure or definition to my eye without that. So doing this eye contouring really gives it shape and brings it to life. So I love this part of the eyeshadow look, and I spend the most amount of time on it. I call it my foundation, and then I build everything up from that. So if you see, I've got a little gradient fade going on here, and I haven't done any blending. I haven't added any other shadows. I've just used and I'm using a very light hand, by the way. I'm just kind of holding it here, and I'm just kind of feathering out the eyeshadow, just kind of feathering it upwards. And I'm keeping the base right down here the darkest because I like that dark to light contrast. So you can see that I've already got a gradient fade going on, and I haven't really done any blending. All I've done is just kind of lightly push the shadow up and kind of feather it out. You can do this, you can just grab a blending brush too and just plug it in the socket and just blend it out that way. I've done that before. I do that sometimes, but today I'm just doing it like this. So whatever works, whatever works. Right, I'm going to use the Cheek Leader palette. This is the Pink Squad. And I got both the Pink Squad and the Bronze Squad. I'm grabbing the Hoola bronzer right here. And I always bronze my crease up. I'm going to use a Sigma E35 for this step. I always bronze my crease. I might bronze it a little bit more when I'm just doing a full bronzy look, but I always do this. And where I concentrate this bronzer on is mainly right on the inner corner and kind of down through this nose contour area here. I like to soften up the brow. I just feel like it gives a really nice sultry fade to the look. So that is pretty much what I do with the bronzer. Now, if I'm doing a full-blown bronzy look, I might, you know, add a little bit more, but you can just already see how that just kind of really softens this area up here. And so that is why I do this step. All right, so from the Kylie palette, I'm going to go ahead and grab this shade right here. This one is perfect for the eye look, and it's great for a transition shade because it's just this nice light peachy shade, and it works really good with the colors I've got going on. And I'm just going to tap this on right on my socket bone, just following the shape of that fake crease line that I created. And I love this step. I love just pressing in these shades, just kind of press. It's kind of tap, tap, tap. Because while you're doing that, it's making a nice fade, and so it's basically really just kind of blending it out for you. And then I just grab my Sigma E35, and in circular motions I'm just going to buff out the edges. And there's not a whole lot of buffing and blending to really do, because that whole idea of just kind of pressing and tapping just kind of did the blending for me. So there's not much to blend, but I do like it nice and airy out here. Sometimes I pick up a little bit of this powder here. I mean, because why not, right? It's like right there. And use that to further buff out the edges. So I did get a couple of new Hakuhodo brushes. I've been wanting to try them for a while. These are from the J series. This is the J5523 and this is the J242. And both of these are small brushes. They're very flat. They really allow you to get into the socket and just lightly blend out. This 242 is perfect. You can just apply a little bit of color and you can just kind of lightly blend it out where you want it. It is slim and flat. It is even flatter than the MAC 239. It's just very small and flat. This one looks like the Wayne Goss number 18, except that it's a little bit slimmer. It's not quite as dense, but it's the same type of shape as, like, say, the M433 from Morphe or the MAC 217 or the Sigma E25. You guys know for months I've been referencing those three brushes as really good for getting it right in the socket and just kind of plugging this in and blending it out. Again, it's tapered on the side, so you just plug this in. It's like another plug and play. You just plug this in, and I like to hold it at a horizontal level so that the bristles on the side of the brush are gonna kind of blend it upwards for me. If I come down here and I'm blending like this, it's just gonna push the color up, which I don't want. So I'm just gonna plug this right in the socket and just kind of softly going into this area, and I'm just kind of following the shape, right? I like it a little bit more on the inner corner and just more light and airy as I get out here. So that's what I'm doing. I'm following the shape that I created. I'm going to use the 242 in this ivory bone shade here, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of map out the lid space, just kind of carve out the lid. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a matte or a shimmer yet. All right, so now I'm at the point in the eye look where I want to start my liner and my wing, and I call this the actual frame. So this contouring right here is the foundation, and now I'm going to put in the actual frame and start to keep everything inward. It kind of also acts as tape, but really helps me to see my socket shape. So I like to do the actual liner, if not first, I like to do it second. That's just how I like to do. I'm going to grab this brown shade right here, and I'm using a Makeup Forever flat definer brush. And I do have a couple of really good tips on doing winged liner, so we're going to get to that when we do the actual wing. And I am going to use a gel pencil for this tutorial, because normally I don't. Normally I just go right on in and do my little shadow wings. So I'm going to take this really, really close to the lash line. I'm just going to stamp and wiggle. And on the inner corner, I'm going to go very, very light. Make a very thin line. And when I get out here to the end, I'm going to make it a little thicker. This is the exact same technique that I mapped out in my how to do a smoky shadow wing tutorial that I did, I think, a couple weeks ago. But it's the same technique that I've been using for the last few months. I just kind of map out the shape using the shadow, map out the wing shape. And I like this because I almost always do a shadow wing, just because shadow is so much softer and I can kind of smoke it out, and it just kind of adds to the overall softness. So just wiggling here in between the lashes and just kind of stamping. And I never use liquids or felt tip or anything. I always use shadow. It's just much softer, and I can smoke this out. Sometimes I do it with a pencil brush. You guys have seen me do that look several times. I'm going to use this. This is the Urban Decay. It is in the shade Bourbon, and it's called a Glide On Eye Pencil. And I'm just going to add a little bit of this, and then I'm going to kind of pull it out into a cat eye, but I'm just adding a tiny bit of this just for the purpose of longevity, because sometimes when you add a little bit of a pencil and then you put the shadow on top of it and you kind of layer the different textures, it just adds, you know, depth and dimension to the eye lash line right here, and it also makes it last longer. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to pull my eye out because I don't want to distort the shape. I'm just going to stabilize right here, and I'm just going to add a little bit, very, very, very close to the lash line. It's kind of pliable. I'm going to, right, really close to the lash line, I'm going to pull this out into that cat eye. And I'm going straight across, and I'm also stopping right before I get to the very end, because my eyes are slightly downturned. And if I go all the way down to the bottom, then that liner, that little cat eye wing thing is going to be like down here, and I don't want that because I want that lifted eye effect. So I'm stopping right here, and I'm just going to pull this out. This is the same technique that I've been doing for the last few months, so nothing new here, just explaining why I do it this way. And I like that gradient fade, if you will. So you can see that I got that darkness, that liner, that gel liner closest to the lash line. So now I'm going to show you guys what I do for my wingtip and how I create my little wing. I literally get a perfect wing every time. It's almost like it's a little foolproof method for me. It just works for me and my eye shape. What you see a lot of times on these tutorials is they will draw this line straight up, and then they will draw another line straight back down. So it's like you have these two triangle things sticking up, and I'm always like, oh honey, no, like that does not look good, like no. So I'm going to show you guys what I do for my eye shape. And you know, what works for me and my eye shape may not work for you. You may prefer those two triangle things, but this is just another option, so I'm going to share it with you guys because it's something that works. So once I have this liner straight across and I've got this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this out a little bit, and rather than drawing the line straight up and then coming back in, so instead of straight up, right, draw the line up and then come back down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that little wing tip, and then I'm going to draw the line downward at an angle, so I get that upturn and I get that perfect little chisel every single time. I am going to switch to the angled liner brush to do that. This is just the Hourglass number 10. I like this because it is super, super soft. So I've got the end here because I went straight across, and I'm going to just draw that little tip downward. Do the same thing over here. Pull this out and kind of come down. Let's say that you want the wing a little bit wider than that little baby wing. The same principle is going to apply. I'm going to take the little wing that's straight across. I'm going to put a little, kind of a little flick, get a little tiny upturn, and then I'm going to create the wing in a slant downward. So extending this out like this, I'm just going to pull it out. And when I get to the very end, you can see I put a little upturn right here. I'm just going to stamp kind of like right where I want it to end. And then I'm just going to connect it to the liner that I did, the eyeshadow liner. I'm just going to connect that little stamp line. And you can see that that just gave me a little bit of a wider wing. Do the same thing over here. All right, I'm gonna go in with just a tiny bit, I think, of this NYX shadow base, because this is what I always do. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this right on the front part of my lid. Just kind of where I'm planning to place my lid color. Just kind of right there. Just a tiny, tiny bit. All right, now using this cream color brush, this is the A18 from Anastasia. I'm just going to grab this shade right here, which is Sea Pearl, and I'm just going to pop this right over the eyeshadow base. All right, so now I'm going to use my new Hakuhodo J242 brush. This one is so slim, and it's perfect. It's tapered and it's slim, so it's perfect for applying just a little bit of color and kind of blending it out where you want it, because it is so small and soft. These artesian goat hair brushes I really do love. So I'm gonna grab a little bit more of this shade, which is what I use to create the fake crease with. And I'm gonna just go right over, I call it the border, which is right where the shimmer meets that fake crease line. And I'm just going to deepen this up a little bit and just kind of soften the edges of that shimmer. And just define that shape even more now. I always wait until I get the lid done before I go back in and deepen up this shape. This is, but I'm literally just plugging and playing. I'm literally just putting this right on the edge, and it is so soft. It is so soft. It's literally, I don't have to go in with a big fluffy blending brush because it's blending it for me. Like, effortless. Effortless. So to connect my little wing here with the lower lash line smoke so that there's not that separation from church and state, because I like there to be some connection, I take a little bit of that dark brown shade and just kind of stamp out here, and then I just kind of flick it upwards a little bit just to give the base of this little wingtip a little bit of smoke so it can have some sort of connection to here. And then I will usually go back in with that lighter bronzy shade or the light brown shade and just go right underneath here and then drag it up. Grab a tiny bit of this bone shade here and just fluff that on the outer edge right here, and just catch any of these shadows that's out here and just make sure that everything is nice and airy, because I like that airbrushed look out here. I like to have that flawless airbrushed look where everything is just kind of melting into each other and everything is a nice fade out here. All right, so just to save some time, I went ahead and touched up my face. I used the Cheek Leader Pink Squad palette, used the bronzers and the blush, and I threw on a little bit of a Tickle highlight. So now I'm going to spray the face, and that will be it. Oh, I realized I forgot to do my little pop of color, my inner corner highlights. I'm using my Holy Grail MAC color for this. You guys know that I use this literally in every single tutorial. This is right. So I realized that I forgot to show you guys how I would add depth, or how I would deepen up the crease if I wanted a little bit of a accent. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my J5523, I'm gonna grab a little bit more of this shade. This is what I used to create the fake crease, so everything is gonna kind of mesh together because I'm gonna use this as my accent crease line. What I will do is I will add this right above my natural crease, and I'm just going to plug this right in here. And you can see that I don't have to do any blending because I'm just plugging that in there. Right there, you can see I got that little bit of definition going. So that is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna plug this in here. And I'm taking this right above my natural crease And all this is doing now is just giving me a little bit more shape and depth and definition. I forgot to include that. Whew. All right, guys, so that completes the tutorial. Mwah! I love you guys. I will see you in my next one.